It's very bizarre to think that like this entire town was a concentration camp that held thousands of Jewish prisoners, and now it's a town again, you know, with shops and people living here, but it just has this weird atmosphere. A lot of elder and prominent Jews were sent here, and these were the Jews that the Nazis feared that if they just simply vanished, it would arouse suspicion. So they were sent here, and this entire camp was actually used for propaganda purposes. The Nazis made a film here about how well they were looking after the Jews, and when the Red Cross came, the Nazis cleaned the place up. Well, the Nazis got the Jews to clean the place up, and all the elderly, the really sick, were sent off to other camps. And they opened cafes around the square, and so when the Red Cross came in, they could see Jews sat outside coffee shops drinking fake coffee, and basically they've been told to look like they were having a good time. So the Red Cross came and thought, well, it seems to be okay. And the Nazis filmed it and put it out as a video as to how well they were looking after the Jews. Of course, the truth was completely different. So this room is dedicated to the approximately 8,000 children who died in the ghetto. Along the walls we've just got thousands of names.
Arrivò a Katowice il 24 novembre del 1941. Come aveva già intuito lui, guardate la data presentiamo. 16 quindi Biancaneve 7 anni, così sempre con le accese, di pace, quindi adesso sono 10, però
Here we've got some of the Nazi propaganda. We've got the Der Stürmer magazine, which was an anti-Jewish Nazi magazine. And this one, the poisonous mushroom, which was given to school children to instill hatred towards Jews. I find this whole place very strange. It's just, I can't understand, to be honest, why people would live here. They might live in there, knowing that it used to house prisoners in a concentration camp. So before the war, the town of Terezin had just 7,000 inhabitants. During the war, at its peak, there were 58,000 people living in the same space. So all the buildings, the accommodation, were converted into barracks. So what might have been somebody's family home was now suddenly housing hundreds of people. So I'm stood now in a reconstruction of what a dormitory would look like. Now, people were all housed in one room together. Obviously that had health issues. Illness and starvation were common in the main ghetto. So this is a reconstruction of what the domes and the barracks would look like. There was still not enough space, so people were forced to live in attics, and there were approximately 7,000 people living in the attics of the buildings, which were completely unfurnished. This part of the museum focuses on the artists that were living in the ghetto, of which there were many, and a lot of them had roles in the Nazi propaganda campaign. This entire floor is kind of dedicated to how the Jews used the arts as a form of coping and also for resistance. We've seen the artists. I've just been in a room which has all the work of the musicians that lived in the ghetto, and now we're in the room dedicated to the theatre in Terezin. Again, the Nazis used the theatre groups to produce propaganda, but behind closed doors. The theatre groups were giving people escapism from the harsh reality that they found themselves. This is part of the one of only 2 fragments of the film that was found, that was made to show how well the Jews were being looked after in Terezin. In this scene it's talking about how the people of Terezin are able to learn new crafts and new skills, and the artists are able to develop their talents, all thanks to the good treatment being given to them by the Nazis. This doesn't look like any of the images that you'd be familiar with of Jews in concentration camps. This is pure propaganda. By the time this movie was seen by anyone, the vast majority of the people that were in the film had already been sent to extermination camps and killed. Leisure time. The reality for the Jews in the small fortress was waking up in the morning, walking 6 kilometres to do extremely hard labour for 14 hours, and then walking 6 kilometres back, and doing that every day with 200 grams of bread in the morning and fake coffee. This is just incredible. I mean, there's propaganda and then there's this. I'm not even sure what this is. I thought it was going to be the crematorium, but Jesus. That was very strange. I don't think that had any significance to the Terezin concentration camp. I think that was just part of the old fort. This crematorium was built by the Jewish prisoners in 1942. The entrance where I've just come in, that was used as a place just to kind of dump the bodies. So people from the small ghetto were also brought in here, but the guards were careful not to let the prisoners who were working in the crematorium catch a glimpse of the bodies. But when they arrived in the coffins, there was blood pouring out of the coffins, so the prisoners knew that they died a very violent death. So they would take all the human remains out individually and place them into the cardboard urns. This was to kind of give the people of the ghetto the impression that they would receive a proper burial. But they were just stored, and then towards the end of the war, when the ghetto was being liquidised, all the remains, all the ashes of 22,000 people were just thrown into the river. So this is where the ashes of all the people that died in Terezin were placed in cardboard urns and stored in here. So just here you can see the old train tracks that used to bring people in and out of Terezin. Well, that brings my journey to Terezin to a close. And it's a strange experience coming up here. The small fortress, in a way, is the more normal of the two sites, if I can really use that word. But it is a concentration camp, albeit one in an old fortress. Now, I've visited concentration camps before, so I kind of know what to expect. Some of the stories across the different camps are very similar. But then you come to the former ghetto, which is basically the whole town of Terezin. And that's an altogether different experience, because it really does feel like a ghost town, and it has a very strange atmosphere to it. And Terezin was used basically by the Nazis as a place to hold people until the concentration camps further east were built, so they could send them to the death camps. But it was also used for propaganda purposes, as I've already mentioned. Now you can see why, because I'm stood in the middle of Terezin, and to be honest, if this place had a different history, this could be bustling with tourists. There could be hotels and cafes and bars and restaurants all around this square. You can understand why the Nazis used this place for their propaganda purposes, because it would have been very easy for them to make this place look nice. It would have been a lot harder for them to make some of the camps that they built, the purposely built camps, look humane and decent. If you're into this period of history, then I would definitely recommend grabbing a bus from Prague. It takes an hour to get here. Don't bother with the tour operators. They charge between 30 and 40 euros. It's cost me about, I don't know, £3 or £4 to get here. It's a strange experience, but one that's definitely worth your time.
This